can you solve this percents question? Can you solve this SAT percents question? Let's take a look. There are 55 students in Spanish Club. A sample of the Spanish students selected was selected at random and asked whether they intended to enroll in the new study program. Of those surveyed, 20% responded that they want to enroll. Based on the survey, which of the following is the best estimate of the total number of Spanish Club students who intend to enroll? So we're trying to find how many enrolled out of this 55. It tells us that it's 20%. So all we need to do is 55 times 20%, which is 0.2, and that'll equal our answer. So I'm going to go ahead and use Desmos in this because I don't like to leave anything to chance. 55 times 0.2 is 11. So A is going to be our correct answer. Moving on to the next question. All right, can you solve this SAT linear question? A machine makes large boxes or small boxes, one at a time for a total of 700 minutes per day. It takes the machine 10 minutes for a large box, so I like to write this down as I'm looking at it. So 10 minutes for a large box and 5 minutes for a small box. Which equation represents the possible combination of large boxes, x, so actually we need to turn this into 10x, and then small boxes y for a 5y. And I know they can do this for 700 minutes per day, 10 representing the amount of minutes for a large, 5 representing the amount of minutes for a small. So I know that 10x, the amount of minutes it takes for a large, plus 5y, the amount of minutes it takes for our small, it's going to equal our total amount of minutes for the day. And this aligns with answer choice B. Watch out for ones like C, where it is 5x. Don't make simple mistakes like that. And C and D, totally wrong. Don't even bother. B is the correct answer for this question. Ooh, can you solve this tough linear SAT problem? Scatterplot shows the relationship between two variables x and y, and the line best fit is also, woo, which of the following equations best represents the line of best fit shown? So you can actually solve this question really, really fast by looking at key markers of a line. One of them being slope, so we know we have a negative slope. And the other one being our y-intercept, and we know our y-intercept is going to be 13.5-ish. So 13.5-ish. All right, so moving on, I'm going to scroll down and take a look at the answer choices and just process of elimination. Let's get rid of a few. Looking at this, I can see that A has a positive slope. So the trick to this question is it's supposed to be in y equals mx plus b form, but instead they wrote it in y equals b plus mx. Same thing, just move some things around. Just got to notice that on the SAT. So I can see that this has a positive slope and does not match my line. I can see this has a negative slope and the y-intercept is a positive 13.5. Perfect, that's what I'm looking for. C has a negative 13.5 and D has a negative 13.5 as well. So B is going to be the correct answer for this question. Let's move on. Oof, can you solve this tough linear SAT problem? Looking at the passage, the point with coordinates D4 lies on the line shown. What is the value of D? So here's what's super tough about this problem is that they don't give me any solid units. So if I look at 4, y equals 4, x equals what? But when I look at 4, it gives me 3.5-ish. 3.5-ish? And so looking at the answer choices, A is 3.5 on the dot. I know it's a little more than that, but between answer choices B, C, and D, I can't really choose it just by eyeballing. What I need to do is create a line. And here's how you create a line for these types of questions. Well, you know you're going to need to find the y-intercept. So luckily, it's pretty clear right here that the y-intercept is 7. But now we need to find the slope. So here's how you find slope. You want to take the 2 points, 0, 8, and, 8, 0, and 0, 7, and do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So here's how we do it. So we're going to take our y2, which here is going to be 0, minus our y1, which is 7, all over our x2, which is 0. Oh, it's 8, excuse me, minus our y2, which is, or x2, which is going to be 0. So we have 0 minus 7, negative 7, 8 minus 0, positive 8. So this is going to be our slope, negative 7/8. So let me clean this up. Here's what we know. We know that our slope is negative 7/8, and our y-intercept is going to be positive 7. So now we have our equation for the line. So we're just going to need to plug in our points. So we know when x equals d, y equals 4. So I know 4 equals negative 7/8 times d plus 7. I'm going to move that down a little further so it's a little more clear for you guys. We know 4 equals negative 7/8 d plus 7. So what we want to do is subtract 7 from both sides. We're going to get negative 3 equals negative 7/8 d. Then we're going to have to get rid of this by multiplying the other side by the reciprocal. Negative 3/1 times the reciprocal, which is negative 8/7, equals d. We know negative 3 times negative 8 is going to be positive 24. We know 1 times 7 is going to be 7. So 24/7 is going to be our answer. So C is the correct answer for this question. But do you know this advanced Desmos trick? What we can do here is we can take these 2 points and build a regression in Desmos. Here's how you do it. You want to go ahead and click this plus sign and build a table. And you want to plug in your points. We know our first point is going to be 0, 7, our y-intercept. And the next point is going to be our x-intercept, 8, 0. And what you want to do here is you see this. In the top left corner, you hover over it and it's going to say add a regression. Go ahead and click it. Then it's going to build you your linear regression here, negative 0.875x plus 7, exactly what we were looking for. All I'm going to do is say when y equals 4, I'm going to find my x. And in this case, I know it's going to be 3.42857. So if I put what was it? I'm going to go ahead and click this. I can just immediately drop it in here. And then if I hit this button, I can put 24/7. It's going to equal the same amount. So I know 24/7 is going to be the correct answer. Let's go to the next question. For the quadratic, can you solve this linear SAT problem? For the quadratic function f, the table shows 3 values of x and their corresponding values of f of x. So which equation defines f? The fastest way, one of the best methods on the SAT is something I learned from Citadel Prep called plug points into the equations. Plug points into equations. So the fastest way to solve this problem is just immediately plug the easy points back into the answer choices. Because whenever you see answer choices with equations as the answers, just plug points in. 9 times out of 10 is the fastest way to solve it. So if I do this, I'm going to start with the easiest number, 0. When I plug, because I know when x equals 0, y should equal 14. So doing that, I see 0 plus 0 plus 14. A is going to equal 14. All right, so A checks out. This one's 0 plus 0 equals 14. All right, B checks out. Looks like C checks out, and looks like D checks out. So that did not help me here. We're going to move on to the next easiest number, 1. So I know 3 times 1 squared, because when x equals 1, y should equal 20. When 3 is times 1 squared, it's going to be 3 plus 14, which equals 20. A checks out. 5 plus 14. Oh, well, that equals 24. B is not the correct answer. 9 minus 1 plus 14. Well, that doesn't equal 20, so C's out as well. And then we get D, where 1 plus 5 plus 14 equals 20. So the only ones left are A and D. So we're going to try our next number, -1. So let's plug, we know B and C are wrong. So -1 squared is 1, so it'd be 3, minus 3, because 3 times -1 is -3, plus 14, that equals 14. And I know when I plug in -1, I want 10. So I know A is wrong and D is the correct answer, but let's double check real quick. Well, negative 1 squared is 1 minus 5 plus 14. And that would be negative 4 plus 14, which is 10. Once again, D is the correct answer for this question. But do you know how to solve this linear equation in Desmos? Do the same thing we did last time. You want to go ahead and plug your points into Desmos by making a table. Plug your points into the table by clicking this plus item, build a table here. You just want to go plug in your points by one. So negative 1, you want 10. And when I plug in 0, I want 20. And when I plug in, I want 14, excuse me. And when I plug in 1, I want 14. Let me double check that. Yep. You want 20, excuse me. And then you want to go hover over this line, add regression. And this gives me a linear regression. But remember, it tells me that this is a quadratic function. So what you want to do is actually switch this over to quadratic regression, and it'll build your line for you. I know it's going to be x squared plus 5x plus 14 is going to be the correct quadratic for these points. So that matches with D again as the correct answer for this question. All right, moving on. Can you solve this linear function in Desmos? Can you solve this SAT problem in Desmos? So the function f is defined as f of x equals x plus 15 over 5. Then f of a equals 10, where a is a constant. What's the value of a? So the best way to go about this problem is once again using Desmos. Because what I can do is just build my equation here. I know that it's x plus 15 over 5. Nope. I want to get the entire thing over 5, so you want to highlight it and then just divide it. And I know it's going to equal 10. So, because it's just saying when x equals 10, in this equation, what would be the x value? And it's going to be your x-intercept is going to show your solution, and it says 35. That's C is the correct answer for this question. But if you would like, you can also do this one by hand. Because I know when x plus 15 over 5 equals 10, we can solve for x just by multiplying both sides by 5. You get x plus 15 equals 50. Subtract 15 from both sides. You get x equals 35. Whichever is faster for you, go ahead and do that method. Alrighty. Can you solve this tough line problem in the SAT? Can you solve this SAT line problem? Can you solve this tough SAT line problem? All right, let's take a look at this. In the figure, lines M and N are parallel. If x equals 6k plus 13 and y equals 8k minus 29, what is the value of z? All right, so first things first, I need to figure out what the heck x and y are. And I can do this because I know x and y should be equal to each other. Therefore, I can set their equations equal together to find k. Once I find k, I can figure out what y or x is. And I can use that information to solve for z. So here's how I do it. We want to get 6k plus 13 equals 8k minus 29. Now, this is the type of math I'll let Desmos do because it's a little complex. Moving it into Desmos, I'm going to instead make xk, or kx, excuse me. 6x plus 13 is going to be equal to 8k minus 29. So 8x minus 29. And I can see my solution for k is going to be 21. So I know k equals 21. So we know, let me scroll down a wee bit. We know k equals 21. All right, since we know k equals 21, we can actually figure out what y is. Because the amount of angles that lines from here all the way there is a semicircle, so it's 180 degrees. So I know y plus z equals 180 degrees because this angle right here is the same as z. So knowing that, I can go ahead and figure out what y is and then subtract it from 80. So 8k minus 29. but I know k equals 21. So 8 times 20 minus 29 is going to equal y. So let me plug that into Desmos because I do not like doing math like that. So 8 times 21 minus 29. I know y is 139 degrees. So y equals 139 degrees. So 180 minus 139 is going to be equal to 41 degrees. So z equals 41 degrees. Let me double check that with the answers. C is going to be the correct answer for this question. Do you know how to solve for perpendicular lines on the SAT? Here's how to do it. So line P is defined as 2y plus 18x equals 9. Line R is perpendicular to P on the xy plane. What is the slope of line R? So perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes to the other line. So what we need to do here is find the original slope of line P. But they wrote this in the standard form, which is not good. We need to switch it out of that. So 2y plus 18x equals 9. What we want to do is move this 18x over. So we get 2y equals negative 18x plus 9. And now we need to get rid of this 2 by dividing everything by 2. And we get y equals negative 9x plus 9 over 2. And we know that our line R is perpendicular. So I'm going to take the slope of line P, which is negative 9, and turn it into its opposite sign reciprocal. So now it's going to be a positive 1 over 9, meaning C is going to be the correct answer for this question. All right, let's take a look. Another look. Do you know how to solve for density on the SAT? So the density equation is going to be density equals mass over volume, DMV, if you want to remember it that way. So let's use it for this problem. A sample of oak has a density of 807 kilograms per cubic meter. The sample is in the shape of a cube where each edge has the length of 0.9 meters. To the nearest whole number, what is the mass in kilograms of the sample? So here's what we know. We know the density is 807 milligrams. And we were looking for the mass, but did they give us the volume? No, they didn't give us the volume, but they did tell us that it's a cube. And then its side length is 0.9. So let's think about it. Why a cube? Why did they give us a side length? Well, I know with one side length, I'm actually able to find the volume of a cube because a cube's volume is just the side cubed. That's it. So all I need to do is do 0.9 cubed to find the volume. Let's go ahead and do that. So 0.9 to the power of 3 is going to be 0.729, and that's going to be the volume for this cube. So now I can plug that into my equation. I know 807 equals the mass over 0.729, and all I have to do is pull this over, multiply 807 by 0.729 to find the correct answer. 0.729 times, what was it, 807? And I know my answer is going to be 588.303. So A is going to be the correct answer for this question because it is to the nearest whole number, and I'm going to round down. So 588 is the correct answer for this question. Do you know how to solve this rate problem on the SAT? Do you know how to solve this compound interest problem on the SAT? Let's take a look. The function P models the population in thousands of a certain city T years after 2005. According to the model, the population is predicted to increase n% every 18 months. What is the value of n? Okay, so normally what you can do, the way these equations are built, I like to use the open formulas. So open means new equals, so the new value equals the old value or the initial value times 1 plus or minus the percent or rate to the power of time. In this case, I know the initial value was 290. I know that the rate would be 1 plus 4% or 0.04, because you can see it's 0.04 higher than 1. And then time is going to be t times 4 over 6, and t represents years in this case. And they're asking us how many in 18 months. All right, so normally you can actually just go ahead and choose C, because we know that by looking at between the parentheses that it's going to be 4% increase. But they threw this 4 over 6, so I just want to double check and make sure they didn't do any crazy math tricks. So I know it's 4 over 6, and this is 18 months. So what I need to do in order to plug 18 in for t is I need to convert it into years. Well, how many months are in a year? It's going to be 12, right? So if I have 18 months and I divide it by the amount of months in the year, I'm going to get the amount of years, or t in this case. So 18 over 12 can just become, I can divide it by 6 and get 3 over 2. Or excuse me, 3 over 4. No, 3 over 2. I'm a genius. I'm right. And so I can plug that in for t. And so I know the equation for t is going to be 4 over 6t, and t is 3 over 2. So I can go ahead and plug that in. 4 over 6 times 3 over 2. Well, I know these cancel out. This would become 1, and this would become 2. And these would cancel out, and this would become 2, and this would become 1. So actually I get 2 over 2, which equals 1. So in this case, C would still be the correct answer, because 1.04 to the power of 1 would still just be the normal increase of 4%. So C is the correct answer for this question. Oof. Can you solve this tough SAT problem? In the given equation, k and n are constants and n is greater than 1. The equation has no solution, so what is the value of k in this case? All right, so let's give this one a shot. So what you want to go ahead and do is, why did they say that there's no solution? That's a little strange. So if there's no solution, what does that mean? Well, when two lines have no solution, they're parallel lines, right? They never intersect. And what do I know about parallel lines? Well, parallel lines have the same slope. And so you want to be very careful when the SAT gives you hints like this. You really want to pick up on them. And I can see that. Is this written in a form that I recognize? Well, this is going to be the form y equals mx plus b. And so actually I can identify the slope of this line, and I can kind of see how the slope of this line is going to turn out. And since they have no solution, I know that the slopes are the same. So let's go ahead and attempt this problem. I'm going to go ahead and distribute this 2 just to help simplify this problem. I know that 2kx minus 2n equals negative 28 over 15 x minus 36 over 19. And so I know that the slopes are going to be the same, so I can ignore this back part, and I know that 2kx is going to be the same as negative 28 over 15x. So what I can do is set them equal to each other to solve for k. 2k equals negative 28 over 15. I just have to divide both sides by 2 to isolate the x, or k, and k equals, well, negative 28 over 15 divided by 2 and multiply it by 1/2 is a negative 28 over 30. And that's going to be the correct answer for this question. And so you can see it's already bubbled in there because I can't type right now. So negative 28 over 30 is going to be the correct answer, or negative 14 over 15, however you like to do it. Ooh, can you guys solve this tough percent SAT problem? So the underlying knowledge you need to know for percents are the open formulas. So there's two that are mainly used for these types of questions. So whenever you see percent of, you're going to want to use this formula. And whenever you see percent increase or decrease, I'm not going to write it, increase, decrease, you're going to want to use the other one. For percent of, you're going to use the original open formula. You do old times the percent will equal the new value. Look how it spells open. And for the next one, for percent increase or decrease, you're going to want to do old times 1 plus or minus the percent equals the new. So it's a slightly modified open formula, but still spelling open. And when it's increasing, you add the percent, and when it's decreasing, you subtract the percent. That's what we're going to use for this equation. And lastly, you just want to remember that is in a word problem means equals. That's the knowledge you need to know to solve this problem. So let's go ahead and attempt it. A gift shop buys a souvenir at a wholesale price of $7. So we know wholesale, W, equals 7. And then resells them each at a retail price that is, so we see this is, that means retail equals, because remember, is equals in a word problem, 290% of the wholesale price. So we see this percent of the wholesale price. So we already know it's going to be 290%, so 2.9 times the wholesale price. You see how we're building this equation. But keep reading, make sure you build all your equations before you attempt. At the end of the season, any remaining souvenirs are marked with a discounted price that is 80% off the retail price. So we know that the discounted price is, so D equals, because that is 80% off the retail price. So not of, but off the retail price. This means a percent decrease. So it's going to be our retail price times 1 minus 0.8. And then now we can just plug and chug, and get the correct answer. So we know our first equation is going to be R equals 2.9 times the wholesale, which is 7. So we're going to go into Desmos. We're going to do 2.9 times 7, which is 20.3. And so we know our retail price is 20.3. So we know R equals 20.3. And we can just plug that right back into here. And we know 20.3 times 1 minus 0.8 is going to give us our discounted price. So 20.3 times 1 minus our discount, 0.8. And that's going to give us 4.06. So we know our discount price equals 4.06. And that's going to be the correct answer for this question. 4.06. What is going on with my pet? It's going crazy. There we go. So 4.06 is the correct answer, even though I can't type it. Might be. All right, let's move on. Can you guys solve this tough Desmos question? Give it a shot. All right, so what you want to do here is whenever you see a question asking for solutions, so this one has no real solutions, it's just Desmos, 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 Desmos. No real solutions, just always a Desmos questions. So it's saying C is a constant and the equation has no solutions if C is greater than N. What is the least possible value of N? So here's what that means. So we can see that there's an x squared, right? So that means it's a quadratic. And so when I graph a quadratic, it's going to look something like this. So think to yourself, how many solutions does this quadratic have? Well, a solution for one singular line, whether a quadratic or a linear line, it's going to be where it crosses the x-axis. So this has two solutions. This has one solution because it's touching at one point, and this one would have no solutions because it never crosses the x-axis. So we're looking for what is the lowest possible value for C for it to have no solutions, and that's what I'm going to be looking for in Desmos. So let me go and look. So my equation is x squared minus 34 plus C, let me double check, minus 34x plus C, excuse me. We're going to go look, and we can see I can move this slider to C and move what value does C have to be for this to have no solutions, because right now it has 2. So I need to make my slider bigger by hitting this 10. And I'm just going to put a wild number, 200. Let's see. Nope. C needs to be bigger than 200. Let's put 300. We're going to make it bigger. All right. So I can see that around when C equals 300, there is no solution. So I know I'm going to etch it down. I'm getting close. Let me start. This is when I start typing in numbers. 288, 289, 290. Oh, not 2890, 290. There we go. Now I can see that there's no solutions here. So when C is 290, there are no solutions. But remember, I'm not looking for C. I'm looking for the least possible value of n. And n is the number, the last number when C has a solution. So when I put in 289, I can see that there's one solution. This is the last number that C could possibly be before it has no solutions. So therefore, that is going to be the solution for here. Where as long as C is greater than 289, there will be no solutions. So that means n equals 289. That is the correct answer for this question. Ooh, can you guys solve this hard? Can you guys solve this hard average problem? So this question's an average SAT problem. Average as I mean like mean, median, and mode. So I mean, can you solve this hard mean problem for the SAT? That's what I'm talking about. So give yourself a second. I'm gonna go on my phone real quick. Ooh, looks like people got their SAT results for September. Oh, what? Someone just got their August SAT results. Didn't those come out a while ago? Why are they just now getting them? Weird. All right. So this one's pretty hard. What the underlying knowledge you need to know for this mean problem is that average is actually a formula on the SAT. So I know you guys intuitively add everything together, divided by the amount. It's kind of like a habit. The SAT knows this, so they're going to make it really tricky. And so what you really want to do is know that it's an equation. It's going to be your mean equals the sum of the numbers over the total amount. And here's why that's important, is because we don't have one data set here. We have A, B, and C. We have 3 data sets. And so let's just write out what we know. In math, that's always a good idea with a word problem, is just transfer it onto your paper. What do you know? Well, I know A consists of 75 objects and has a mean of 25 meters. So for data set A, it has a mean of 25. We don't know the sum of the heights, but we do know that it was out of 75 objects. So do you see how we can now kind of see what we can solve for? Let's do B. B is height of 50 objects and a mean of 65. So 65 equals the sum of 50 objects. And then we have C. So C consists of the heights of 125 objects from data sets A and B. What is the mean? So we don't know the mean, and we also don't know the sum of C. But it looks like we have all the objects of A and B. So wouldn't it make sense that the sum of C would also be the sums of both A and B? That's how you solve this. So we need to find the sum of A, which would be 75 times 25. And that'll be 1875. So when we know the sums of A are going to be 1875. That's correct. Let's find the sum of B, which would be 50 times 65. So 50 times 65 is going to be 3250, so 3,250. So 3250. And if I add these together, I find the sum of C. So 1875 plus 3250. It's going to be 5,125. So we know the mean is going to be equal to, oh shoot, I already forgot my number, 5,125 over 125. So if I just do that, I can find the answer to this question. So the correct answer for this question is 40 1. Oof. Can you solve this tough quadratic SAT problem? The expression 4x squared plus b of x minus 45, where b is a constant, it can be rewritten as hx plus k times x plus j, where h, k, and j are all integer constants. So integer just means whole number. You need to know what an integer means. Whole number. So let me go ahead. I want to make my pen a little thicker. And I want it to be blue. You see what that looks like? Yeah, that's way easier to write. Might be a little cleaner for you guys. All right, so we know integer just means whole number, but that's super important on the SAT is that you know what that word means. So which of the following must be an integer? That means which of the following must create a whole number? And looking at the answer choices, these make no sense, but I'm going to use what I know. So SAT skills usually tell me that I should probably, if these are the same equation, I should probably get them to match. That way I can interpret what they mean a lot better. So I know I have 4x squared plus b of x minus 45. And then I have this like hx plus k x plus j over here. And so what's going to be easier, factoring the 4x squared or just distributing the hx to the hj? Probably distributing, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to distribute this hx. So I'm going to get hx squared plus hjx plus k of x plus kj. That's a little sloppy, but let me rewrite that a little better because I'm going to be using that for the rest of this. But can I compare that to my 4x squared? Yeah, I can. So what do I know about h? Well, I know h equals 4 because they're both the constant in front of x squared. Well, b is going to be equal to my b of this equation, which is going to be the combination of jh plus k because they're both multiplied by x. And I know my negative 45 is going to be equal to, you guessed it, kj. And so which one of these answer choices could possibly be a whole number? Well, let's take a look at them. I'm going to change the color of my pen to a better color so we can distinguish. Well, if I'm looking for b over h, how would that occur? So the only way where b and h interact is, well, I know b equals jh plus k. How can I get b divided by h? Well, I'd have to move this k over, then I get b minus k equals jh, and then I would have to divide it by h again, minus, and all would be over h, and it would be pretty convoluted. Like if I try to see this out, it'd be b over h minus k over h equals j. That doesn't look like it would create an integer. That's a little tough. So I don't think that's going to be the right route. Maybe I wouldn't get rid of it immediately, but I'm probably going to look for a simpler solution. So let me clean this up a little bit. All right, so let's go on to b over k. Well, same scenario. Well, I know b equals jh plus k. Well, how do I get it so it's b over k? Well, I'd have to do something like b minus k equals jh. Then I would have to divide it by j, divide it by h, move things over. It doesn't look like b is going to be the correct answer because there's really no way to get b divided by k if I'm adding k. It just won't happen. So that's an incorrect answer as well. Because remember, we're going for a simple whole number. Which one makes sense? And then we're going to get 45 over h. So in what world does 45 and h interact? Kind of never. They don't really interact at all. So it can't be C because h equals 4, b equals jh plus k, but there's no scenario where 45 and h ever interact and it wouldn't create a whole number. Even if I know h is 4, I know 45 divided by 4 doesn't create a whole number either. So that's going to be incorrect. All that's left is D. Can I get 45 over k to be an integer? Well, let's take a look. Well, negative 45 equals kj. Well, can I divide 45 by k? It's like, yeah, I can. Negative 45 over k equals j. That works, but I got this negative. Well, can I move it over? Yeah, I can. I can get 45 over k equals negative j. This is a whole number. And the reason why this is an integer or a whole number is because it tells me h, k, and j are integers. So if it equals a negative j, it means it equals a negative integer, which is still an integer. So since j is an integer, I know 45 over k will equal a whole number. So D is the correct answer for this question. Let's keep it moving. Oh, can you solve this tough Desmos problem? Can you guys solve this tough SAT Desmos problem? Can you solve this tough SAT problem in Desmos? Which hook sounds the best? You guys let me know. All right, in the given system of equations, A is a positive constant. The system has exactly one distinct real solution. What is the value of A? Whenever you see solutions or systems of equations where you're given two lines and they ask you, hey, how many solutions are there? Desmos, Desmos, Desmos. Always plug into Desmos. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. And I'm looking for when they intersect at one time and one point. So I know y equals negative 1.5. And then y equals x squared plus 8x plus a. So x squared plus 8x plus a. And it's asking me what is the value of a when they intersect or have one solution, so intersect at one time. So I can see my lines now. Oop, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to wait for them to intersect. And now I'm going to have to make my slider a little bigger. So make this 20. We're going to zoom in. It's almost there. Let's see what happens when I make it 15. When it's 15, it's too high. 14, it's too low. So let's go 0.5. And I know when A is 14.5, it intersects at 1 point. That means there is one solution. So 14.5 is going to be the correct answer for this question. So you guys need to know how to use Desmos for these. Fastest way to solve them by far. All right, we got a mean, median, and mode problem here. Can you solve this mean, median, mode problem on the SAT? So the dot plot represents 15 values in dataset A. Dataset B is created by adding 56 to each of the values in the dataset A. Which of the following correctly compares the medians and ranges? So it's medians and ranges here. So what you need to know is median. That just means middle value. Range, what this is it's the largest number, so largest number minus the smallest number equals the range. So we're going to see how this changes it. What we're doing is we're adding 56 to each of the values. So really what's going on here is this 22 is increasing by 56, meaning that it's going to be 78, 79, 80, 81, 82. So how does this change my median? Let's start with that first. Well, if I count outside in, it goes, so the median won't change itself. It'll still be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. So 23 is going to be the median of dataset A. In dataset B, it's now going to be 79 because we increased them. We didn't add more values. We just increased the number of the values we already had, two different things. So I know the median is going to increase. All right, but what do I know about the range? Well, the range of dataset A is just going to be 26 minus 22, which is 4. And then in dataset B, it's going to be 82 minus 78. It's going to be 4 again. And so the range is going to stay the same. And so that's what I'm going to be looking for in the correct answer choice. So let's take a look. And the median of dataset B is equal to the median of A. Not true. The median of dataset B is equal to the median of A. Not true. The median of dataset B is greater than the median of A, and the range of B is equal to the range of A. That is true. So C is going to be the correct answer for this question. Moving on to the next question. Oof. Can you guys solve this? Ooh, what's this? What type of question? Can you solve this exponential question on the SAT? All right, let's take a look. The rational function f is defined as an equation in the form f of x equals a x plus b, where a and b are constants. The partial graph of y equals f of x is shown. If g of x equals f of x plus 4, which of the following could define function g? So normally I would say this is a Desmos problem, but you can't do Desmos on problems with multiple missing variables. So if I don't know what b or a is, Desmos won't help me here. So I kind of have to solve it through logic or math. So let's take a look. Well, if what I'm doing is increasing x plus 4 to create g of x, I can actually plug that into my f of x. So if I know f of x is a, x plus b, and I'm putting in x plus 4, it'll actually look like this. It'll be a over x plus 4 plus b. And so looking at that, I can kind of look at the answer choices and pretty much tell you, well, A is not going to be the correct answer. 6 over x, well, where's the plus 4? Where's the plus b? It's not going to be A. B is not going to be right either because, well, it is x plus 4. Where's the plus b? No, it ain't there. So we're going to take a look at C, and we can see that it's x plus 8, which is fine because that would actually tell me b equals 4, because it would be x plus 4 plus 4, which would create this x plus 8. C is looking like the correct answer here. And lastly, what the heck is D doing? You just wouldn't do that. You just wouldn't put the x plus 4 in the numerator. Like, why would you ever do that? It makes no sense. D is completely wrong. And through process of elimination, C is going to be the correct answer. But if you're like me on the test, I like to double check. And so here's how I would do it. So if I choose C, it basically tells me that this original equation is going to be A. Hold on, where's my put thingy? It's pretty much telling me that, hold on. So A equals 6, because I can see that 6 is in the numerator of all of these. And then if I choose C, that means B equals 4. So if I plug in 6 over x plus 4, it should give me the equation or the graph shown here. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's plug in 6 over x plus 4. Well, does it look like this graph? Let me see. I know this has a point of -5, -6. Let's see if that pops up here. -5, -6. Yep, it goes right through it. That means C is the correct answer for this question because it aligns with this graph as well as through process of elimination. All right. Ooh, this question's tough. In the given equation, A and B are positive constants. The product of the solutions is the given equation is KAB, where K is a constant. What is the value of K? I already see this. Do you guys know this quadratic SAT trick? So what you want to do is whenever they're asking you for, hey, what is the product of these solutions? There's a trick here. What the product of the solutions is, if you do negative, actually, excuse me, if you do C over A, this equals the product of the solutions. And so all I have to do is take C, which is AB, and divide it by A. And so that's going to be AB over 57 is going to be equal to KAB. And what I can do here is just eliminate AB from both sides, and I get 1 over 57 equals K. So A is going to be the correct answer for this question. So this is absolutely an equation worth memorizing. So here are the two for quadratics that you need to, here are the two quadratic SAT equations you need to know. So for the sum of the solutions, it's going to be negative B over A. For the product of the solutions, it's going to be C over A. These are really, really, really fast ways to solve these questions, and they save you tons of time on the exam. Absolutely worth memorizing. Ooh, can you solve this tough circle problem on the SAT? So the graph of x squared plus x plus y equals 199 over 2. And the xy plane is a circle. What is the length of the radius? So what this means is you want to find the length of the radius. So normally they call this a completing the square. It is a horrible math thing that the SAT makes you do, but thankfully we have Desmos in our back pocket to make this a lot easier. So whenever you're given this question of like, hey, what's the radius of a circle? If they give you an equation, just graph it. It's gonna be way faster to solve rather than doing a bunch of complex math. So here's how to do it. You just wanna go ahead and plug this in. So let me see if my copy and paste works because I hate flipping through. All right, that actually is fine because I can make it right after this. Plus x plus y square root of 2 plus y equals 199 over 2. Let me double check and make sure that's right. That is true. So we're looking for the radius, right? So what do I know about this circle? Well, I can see all the points, right? I can see that this is negative 10.48. This is 9.48. I don't really like those numbers. I'm going to take a look at the other points. I can see that this is 9.5 and this is going to be negative 10.5. So if I can find the distance between those two y values, that would tell me my diameter, right? So if I do 9.5 minus negative 10.5, I get 20. And so if that's my diameter, can I just do 20 over 2 to find my radius? And wouldn't 10 be the correct answer for this problem? And it is. 10 is the correct answer for this problem. But plug it in Desmos, don't freak out. Completing the square stinks, don't do it. Oh man, I don't know if I have enough space to do this problem. I'll give it a shot, but this problem's hard. So can you solve this tough surface area SAT problem? Give it a shot, guys, trust me. This one's a doozy. So two identical rectangular prisms each have a height of 90 centimeters. The base of each prism is a square and the surface area of each prism is K. If the prisms are glued together along a square base, resulting prism has a surface area of 92 over 47 K centimeters square. What is the side length in centimeters of each square base? So let me give you guys a quick lesson in surface area. So surface area, all it means is, so imagine this was a cube, is and then it'll help if I change my color. Give me a second. If I just like found the area of this, found the area of this, found the area of this, and added it all together, that would be my surface area. So concisely, surface area is adding the area of all the faces of an object together. That would be the surface area. And so if it was a cube, it would be side times side would be 1. And so it would be, side squared would be the area. And you would do that 6 times, 1 time for each of the faces. That's how you solve for surface area. And so I need to do it on this rectangle, which is a little trickier. So watch this. So I'm going to draw my first rectangle and label it. So this will be my first one. And it told me that it has a square base. And so what that means is I know that these are all the same. And it told me that the height is 90 centimeters. So I know this part is 90 centimeters. And so the surface area will equal K. All right, so let me switch to red for my second one. So, but I also have this other one. It also has a square top, and it's 2 of them glued together. So it's gonna be like this. So I know that the base is actually gonna be the same. It's gonna be 2 sides of the same square, but guess what the height is? Well, if it's 2 of them stuck together, the height's gonna be 180. It's gonna be 2 times 90. So the height is 180 centimeters. And they told me that the surface area is gonna be 92 over 47 of K. All right, so can we see what variable these have in common? Well, they have the sides in common and they have the K in common. These are the clues of the SAT. You can't pass these up. But let me go ahead and solve for the surface area of my first rectangle before I do anything else. All right, so I know I can find the area of my top and my bottom because it'd be s squared, right? S squared, and I know I'm going to do it twice. So it'd be 2s squared plus, well, how many faces of this long rectangle side are there? Well, there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 faces of the rectangle. So it's going to be 4 times 90 times the side. So I'm probably going to have to clean this up a little bit. So let me write it up here for now. 2s squared plus 4 times 90s is going to equal k. Because I did 90 times s, because to find the area of the rectangle face, I'm going to have to do the side times the height. So base times the height, side s, equals k. So that gives me my equation for the surface area of the first rectangle. Now let's solve for the surface area of the second rectangle. And I'm going to go ahead and do that down here. It's going to be the same exact process. Because these square tops are the same, it's still going to be 2s squared plus, and still 4 rectangular faces, except the height is now doubled. So it's going to be 4 times 180 times s. But this time it equals 92 over 47k. But we're in a really good spot. Do you see how these equations are interacting? If I move this 92/47 over to the other side, wouldn't I have 2 equations that both equal k, and therefore they both equal each other? Exactly. So let me go ahead and get some space before I move on to the next step. All right. So what I can do here is some tricky math. I can do 2s squared plus, well, I'm going to distribute this for being concise. 4 times 9 is 36, right? So 4 times 90 would be 360. So it'd be 360 s would be equal to my other 2s squared plus 4 times 180 would be 400 plus 320, which would be 720. But this would be multiplied by the reciprocal, because I moved this 92 over 47 over, 47 over 92. So do you see I now have a quadratic where I can solve for s? And so, like every tough geometry problem, SAT loves to bring it back to quadratics. So normally, what they would have you do is solve this by hand, but I am not going to make you do that. That is the worst option. I'm going to use my friend Desmos. And what I can do is, instead of putting s, I'm going to just make that an x. I know 2x squared plus 360x is going to be equal to 2x squared plus 720x times the reciprocal, so 47 over 92. And it gives me 0 for a value, but can I have a 0 length? No, but it does tell me my solution to this quadratic is 8. So that means the base height, the base of this rectangle is b, 8. I told you this problem was a doozy. I mean, what did that take me, 5 minutes to do? Ridiculous they put that on the SAT. If I were taking that on the SAT, I would skip that problem. I would never have done it unless I had 3 minutes at the end of the test and I was sure I had every other question right. Maybe I would attempt that problem. Because even if you know how to do it, it's hard. All right, it's a difficult problem. Wouldn't recommend. 1 out of 10 would not recommend. All right, so let's take a look at this next problem, number 22. So on the XY plane, so this is number 22. Can you solve the hardest problem on digital SAT? On the XY plane, a parabola has a vertex 9 and -14, and it intersects the x-axis at 2 points. If the equation of the parabola is written in the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are constants, which of the following could be a value of a, b, and c? All right, so what clues are the SAT telling me here? So I want to just draw this out. I want to visualize it. So it's telling me I have a vertex of 9, -14. So that'd be over here, right? and it intersects the x-axis at 2 points. So let's imagine they're here and here. And so these 2 points are increasing. So what does that tell me about my equation? I know a is greater than 0, because a being greater than 0 tells me that the parabola is facing upwards, which is really good. And so we want to figure out, what the heck is a plus b plus c? And so here's the fastest way to solve the problem. What you want to realize is when I have an equation like a x squared plus b of x plus c, and they're asking me, well, what is a plus b plus c? And I know this is -9, oh, excuse me. This is going to be 9, -14. I know a plus b plus c. Well, what does x have to be for a plus b plus c to occur? Think about it. X would have to be 1, right? So 1 squared is 1, a times 1 is a, b times 1 is b, and then you'd have c at the tail end. And then it equals what? And so when x equals 1, basically y equals what is what they're asking me. And so let me switch my pen color to make it a little easier. Well, if I know -14 is the lowest y value possible because it's my vertex and it's facing upwards, doesn't that mean that this y value for x equals 1? Well, my y value just has to be greater than -14. That's all I need to know, because it's going to show up on this line here. It's got to be greater than the vertex. And so a is telling me, well, my y value would be -23, and that's less than -14. -19 is less than -14. It can't be -14, so it has to be D, the only number greater than -14. And so that's it for Digital Test 4 Math. All right, well, Leda Tatas, I am a part of Florida Test Prep. I do one-on-one tutoring, so if you're looking for tutoring lessons, leave your name down below. We do a free diagnostic test. If you want to meet with me for 15 minutes, we'll run you through a diagnostic, and I'll actually create you a customized, personalized SAT study plan if you would like. So go ahead and put your information below, or click our link at floridatestprep.com, fltestprep.com. Thank you, guys.